Let's talk herd. I feel like there's a difference between when the soul leaves the body and when the soul leaves. Because I've always, all the experiences that I've had, like often there's a really strong sense of them after they've after they're dead, but maybe for a few days, like maybe at night I'll feel them. It's like they'll visit but it's like you really feel them like so strong, like you know it's them.
Yeah.
And they're very formed and and that kind of gets less frequent over time, and and then they may return in the future, but it's not as rich in a way. Like it's not as almost as if they've become less and less concentrated, which sort of makes sense. But they're not in their body anymore. But something I did want to mention, because I think it's interesting, is that before I really became aware of the conditioning that I had around euthanizing, when I thought it was what you do, it was like a sort of common knowledge that there was this time when the soul would leave the body, and that was when you did the euthanasia, because it was like they were gone. Yeah, that was, and I don't know where that came from. I'm thinking about it now because it seems a little bit bizarre, but it was like you could see in their eyes that they were gone.
Okay.
Gone, like that they'd left their body. And I think there's a few horses I can think now of that. And then it felt like you were just dealing with the physical,
Yeah.
And maybe that, thinking about it now and feeling into it now, maybe it's a protective mechanism. Like they know that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so if they leave now, if they leave before, then it's going to be more clean or more allow them the time or something. Whereas if they know that you can fully embrace their death and really be there with them, then they don't have to do that. It can be more balanced. Yeah. It's just an idea.
That's interesting because the light going out of the eyes, that's a stage in the natural dying process.
Ah, okay.
Like that just means death is closer. So what would be interesting is...
So maybe, it's just a misinterpretation.
So they're correct in, we're getting closer. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But it's not painful having the light go out of your eyes. No. So, and then if you see that, if you letting it play out a little further, then you start to see then the even later stages of dying, then the moment at which, the breathing stops completely and all of that. But that's interesting.
Yeah, it's funny that we've taken that as a sign of suffering. I'm just thinking into the terminology that's used about it, like they're ready to go now, or because people do say a lot, you can see it in their eyes. They've given up as well. That's one of the, like that they've given up. Yeah, when you think about it, it really is just a kind of misinterpretation.
Yes. And in a sense, yes, you could say they're letting go. They're dying. The separation of the spirit and the body is starting to happen. And in a dying process that's taken a couple of months, it's a slower separation. And then when you have an instant death, it's like, boom, out of here. It's still...
Yeah. Why does that scare us though? I'm just sort of thinking of that completely anew. Like, I don't know if I've ever thought this before, but why are we scared of the light going out of their eyes? Like, why does that make us feel that we have to act? And
the only thing I can think of is that Western veterinary medicine defines that as painful.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they say it's time to euthanize your pet. They'll actually have if I actually read it, this was actually a holistic veterinarian. I was shocked, but I just knew that they didn't have training in hospice. But he said if they stopped eating, it's time. If they're not there anymore, it's time. It's time, and it's like, you guys, you're just describing the natural dying process, and it's not painful. Like, save yourself the heartache.
Why? I just wonder where that comes from.
I don't know.
Yeah, but where does it come? Where did that come from? Like, it could be as simple as one person.
Yeah.
Like, one person started the.
Yeah.
The.
Yeah.
It should, or I mean, that happens, doesn't it? It's like, it reminds me of when I trained to do the craniosacral therapy. The man that I trained with he was a cranial osteopath, or is a cranial osteopath, and he was very into the anatomy and very much into John Upledger, not Upledger. He trained with him, but it was another man, James Sutherland, who began really the whole understanding of the bones of the skull and everything. Anyway, that's all beside the point. What he said happened, and my history is not very good, but what he said happened was that in Britain, osteopathy used to be as powerful a therapeutic, like as powerful a form of medicine as medicine. It was used to heal diseases, all kinds of diseases, because if your joints and everything are functioning, if the bones of your skull are functioning, then and your spine, and especially your spine, then you're healthy. And it was like as big a resource in the country. And then he said, I think, like, some of the most powerful osteopaths left and maybe went to America. And at the same time, medicine started to become this big thing. And so conventional medicine kind of took over. So it just altered everything. It altered what people believe in and how they treated themselves. And the focus became drugs and drugs and drugs. I mean, what else do doctors really offer you but medication, which isn't really healing really at all, if you understand the body and how it works. And drugs aren't really a solution. They kind of are symptom treaters. So just that one, event happening changed everything. So it could be the same with death, that it was just, a few people or something that just became, an ideology that just sort of expanded, and then it just, that's how everybody does it now. So, and it's quite hard to alter it back again, isn't it? Or to kind of awaken. I think we are awakening very slowly, thanks to people like you who are talking about it and, making it less frightening. One thing I saw recently that concerned me a little bit was that, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but that people are starting to put their dogs on antidepressants as well.
Really?
And like feel that the dog, and feel that they are asking for them as well, and that they want them, so it's like,
wow,
a trend that's a bit,
oh no,
because animals could be as susceptible as we are to, addiction and the way that feels.
When you say that, it sounds like as a human we're becoming disembodied. And then our animals can't handle the fact that we're disembodied, and so it stresses them. And now we medicate them to disembody them so that they don't feel the stress that they're feeling from us. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, because they do carry a lot, don't they? Yeah.
That's amazing. I can't think of who it is, but somebody was talking about the relationship between humans and their animals, their pets. And how sometimes the animals can mirror what's going on in the human. And And that would be an example of that.
Yeah.
And so really with all of this, I want to start looking at these things. So this is why I look at death, because I'm going to do it someday. And I would like to have some info before it happens, you know, and also so that it can inform how I want to live. So, but I want to look at these things that are hard to look at, because then it makes my life experience deeper and richer. And yeah, there's hard parts about being alive, but I don't want to run from them anymore. I want to face them and learn more about them. One of my favorite things on Facebook, someone asked some question and the go-to phrase is, call the vet.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yes. And my favorite response one time was the lady said, I am the vet. She was the vet asking the question, wanting more information. And so the pat answer was, just call the vet. Wow. She says, I am the vet. So really it then moved the conversation toward, hey, let's look at this together. Vets are humans too. Like, let's look. So she was asking, because it was a tight spot. And so she was asking, as a human being, anyone else out there with experience in this area? I'm looking at this. Anyone else can shed some light on this. And so that's what I want, is all these difficult places of being a human. What do we do when we die? What about pain? What about all of that? Is I want to look at it and face it and embrace it and talk about it and find others who are doing that, so that we can share information so that we can more deeply understand what's going on and experience it when it comes to be our turn.
That is so fascinating. Like, when you were talking there, I just thought about, like, what would it be like to be the vet and to have that responsibility, you know, for the death of people's animals, and how would you respond to that? And you would, to cope, probably, you do have to have a protocol.
Right.
And, you know, it's going to be something that seems to be peaceful, you know, most of the time, and is effective and is just reliable. You know that if you can put that animal to sleep, that you can do that for someone, and you can take that weight of the whole thing of supporting and you know, going through that process. You can take that off their shoulders. And I mean, they would have to have a big, how could they change their approach to it? And I'm sure they are. I'm sure some of them are, you know, rethinking it. But it is really about the weight of responsibility, isn't it? I mean, when you know that you've rung the vet, I think we talked about this last time, like, it's kind of, it can be quite a relief to know that you're not the one having to. I mean, I find that I kind of shy away from that now, because I don't want to have decisions made that don't feel right to me. You know, I want to be able to listen to the horse and to have that. And it takes a lot of patience and willingness to be open. And I think that's something that vets, they don't have time, really. They don't have time, and they, you know, it's just not their field. It's not their approach at all. So once you entrain all of that, you've lost that space. You've lost that freedom. So I don't really go there these days. I mean, I'm not saying that you just don't know what's going to happen, and there are very challenging situations, but but on the whole, you can really understand why people do that, why they so maybe the vets is where to start, really, with the opening of the minds, because I think for them it's pretty tough having to, and it must be very, even if they don't know it consciously, it must be a very heavy weight vibrationally to be doing that day in, day out, and to, you know, because it's really, and especially when they have to do it in a situation where it's not, you know, it's not even, there's no justification other than, you know, an animal is not, not wanted. I mean, that must be really hard as well. I suppose it's just time and allowing things to evolve and people to awaken. But I would say they are the ones with the most power in the situation, because they do have that power over people's minds. And if you calling the vet is like how people don't feel guilty and they don't feel like they're neglecting their animals, and there's a lot of moral pressure there as well. It's kind of
right.
So have you talked to vets about this? Have you liaised at all? Do you know any who understand your?
I have. In my area, I don't know of any horse vets who do hospice. I know of none. So I just don't call them. I mean, if there's something that's going on, they can give me a diagnosis, or they can give me some options on the pain front. I mean, there's lots of pain things I know that they don't know, but they have the drug category. So I'm still going to ask just so I know. But other than that, internationally, yes, there are veterinarians who do hospice, and that's what they advertise. But pretty much for me, I just thought, you know what? I'm going to spend all my time looking at this. And then I'm going to learn myself and look at human hospice and what do they do and what happens there. And then just start seeing how I can adapt it to horses, and then really start listening to the horses and not thinking I need to do something. And so I started letting things play out a little bit more, started taking more cues from the horses, and then that's how I ended up here. So
that is the root of it. When you said that, it's such a liberating idea that you don't have to do anything. Right. That's the root of it, isn't it? And I think we feel like we've taken these animals into our lives, and we're the ones who are responsible for doing everything.
And so I just go, well, I'm going to make your life as natural as possible to the degree that I'm able. And then I'm just going to support you in living, and then let you have the experience of your death to the degree that I'm able to do it. And don't worry, they're going to die. Have no fear. Yeah. They will die. They won't die on our timeline.
Yeah, what about situation like where you have a young horse who breaks their leg, like in an unretrievable manner, or, because in the wild, obviously,
totally,
although there is a wild horse who have you seen that horse? He broke his leg and he's still going.
I don't know what happened.
Nothing, because nobody went out there to shoot him. When people put like stuff on photos of him on social media, there's like an outcry about how cruel it is and everything. But this horse is obviously a fighter, and it does look pretty bad. It's completely, his leg is snapped, but he's still alive. He's still like, and that was like,
which leg is it?
Leg.
Okay. And do you know what part snapped? Okay. I'm curious now. I want to see what he does.
Yeah, I mean, I will try and find some information about that. I saw it on Facebook and I was just fascinated with the comments because, people were like, some people were it really triggered their pain body. Like, this is, horrific that this is allowed to happen.
Yeah.
But then other people were really like, supportive of his courage and his will to live. He clearly wanted to live with this injury.
Yeah.
But so that poses another.
Wow.
What do you do in that situation? I suppose you just have to be in the moment with each horse, really.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I what's interesting, every once in a while I'll get people commenting on my hospice page with questions like that. Well, what about this and what about that? As if I'm saying,
Yeah.
just let this happen, and so I'm going, here's the bottom line is they're going to live and they're going to die, and I'm going to do everything in my power to support them. And so if I have some horrific scenario like that, then I sit down and talk with them. And I'd say, this is freaking me out. We people, this is what we've been taught to do as people, is we're supposed to euthanize you right now. And I would tell them that. And then I go, okay, that's the people world, but you're the expert on being the horse. So tell me what you want. What do you do? What's your desire?
Yeah.
What's the rest of the herd doing? And then it's having the conversation. And then being in it, willingly putting here's me. I put me on the table. And then I say to the horse, okay, I want to hear from you. You put you on the table. Don't take care of me. Just put yourself on the table and tell me your experience. And we share both of our experiences. And then we see what happens. And that's whether the situation's horrific or it's mild or it's tiny or it's medium or it's big, it doesn't matter. That is the process. Here I am. Yeah. Here's my human conditioning. Here's my fears. There they are. And then I say to the horse, okay, tell me about you. And neither of us are going to take care of each other for a moment. Yeah. We're just going to express who we are in me and my humanity, the horse in their horseness. And we put it both on the table, and then we see what comes. And there was one time, I think I told this story last time, when my horse was dying, 2 months in hospice, and I didn't know when he would die. And I was going to do one last ditch effort. Maybe antibiotics would solve this. just in case. Maybe not. And so, but I wasn't going to make him do anything. So I thought, okay, got the little antibiotics, put it in applesauce, the whole thing, took it out to him, but I wasn't going to make him do it. I was just going to offer it. Now, chances of a horse eating antibiotics because they want to is pretty low. Yeah. But, I'm going to still give him the option. And then I just let him know, hey, this is my last idea. If you want it, yay. If you don't, you don't. And I was hoping he would, but I wasn't going to make him. Yeah. He sniffed it, said no. His pasture mate said, I'll take it. She wanted it. Didn't let her eat it, though. Anyway, and so then I go, I know. She'll go, I'll take the applesauce. It's okay. It tastes a little bad, but I'll still take it. Anyway, didn't let her eat it, though. So so that was the moment for me where I realized, okay, that was my last moment of trying to fix this. Even though I knew I couldn't fix it, I said, one more idea. Let me just see if this might help. And so then when he didn't eat it, then in me, it was just the realization, oh, okay, you're dying and I can't fix this.
Wow.
There's nothing I can do to stop this from happening. So I just had that realization right there, which then, of course, brought up a whole bunch of stuff in me of, I'm losing this horse. So then I just expressed everything I felt a little ways away from him, pointing the same direction as him, got it all out of my system. Like I just put all of me on the table. Every fear I had, everything. Got it all out. And then I felt better. And then what came to me was, Mary, you don't have to do anything. I'm doing it. And then I felt such relief that I was taking on his dying process. So no matter the situation, whether it's really, really bad or medium, I put all of me, all of my humanity on the table and say, here I am. And then I ask them to do the same. Yeah. And then see what comes. And then there's a path through there. What is it? I don't know. But if I want a natural death, I just read a lot about natural death, educate myself on natural death so that I have those tools. So when I'm having that conversation, I have some education to help me navigate that. It's very hard to navigate that and not know what dying looks like. Like I want to be educated on that and then have that conversation.
Yeah.
And then the deeper my understanding is of pain and death and suffering, all those things that scare me, the more experience I have with it and the more education I have, then the calmer I can be in those conversations, which can be intense, especially if it's something big and dramatic.
Yeah.
But if I haven't ever looked, and now this thing is staring me in the face, yeah, it's going to blow my circuits. I won't be able to handle it. Yes, I will call the vet and let them figure it out and then just be done with it. Like sometimes that's the best I have. And actually that happened with the horse that I euthanized. I reached the end of what I knew how to do and I called the vet. I actually did that, and totally understandable. And then out of that, I go, okay, I want more tools so that I can have more options that resonate with me. And so then that's how I started
Yeah.
looking into hospice and pain management and all of that. So, and I will just say, not all deaths are painful. Dying itself is
No.
not painful. You can have a painful medical condition, but the actual natural dying process of the body shutting down is not generally a painful process. So hospice
No.
provides comfort care, and if pain is present, because it not all the time is it present, then you look at how to provide comfort. Sometimes that can be medication, or it can be other kinds of comfort care or natural methods of pain management. But
Yeah.
dying itself generally is not a painful process. But if there is pain going on, it's usually from a painful medical condition that in hospice we would address through comfort care, which can include medication. It just really depends on each situation. So,
Yeah, because in the dying processes, your soul is leaving, and your soul. So it's like with near death experiences, nobody talks about pain. It's quite the opposite, because you're leaving that behind.
yes.
But this, yeah, what you're saying about tools though is
Yes.
really, it's so important, because when I think back to the decisions I made in the past about euthanizing, and it's I when I remember how I used to feel and think, it was just a lack of tools. Like, even knowing that
Mm-hmm.
I could communicate with the horse, knowing that I could hear them, that they really could communicate with me. I mean, I don't think it was that I didn't think they had a voice. It was just that I don't think I realized that I could hear them. And without that filter, of fear that's very, it, and being able to have that space where you can just listen and trust that it's not just you, because you feel, I mean, I feel I had that to know when it was time, when it was time. But when it was time meant when when you get them put down. So that was just ignorance, really. So there was a communication, but it wasn't very expanded. It wasn't very informed. So yeah, I think you're right that the more people are educated and the more they feel like they can recognize things and just realize it's not about suffering, then the more things will change. And I think people will have some amazing experiences, because it is a really beautiful thing when you can get past the body, the way the body, it kind of,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not like the most beautiful thing in a way, but it is. I feel like there is great beauty, because it's like the soul becomes clearer and the body becomes less clear. So I've seen, really, like when Epona died, my little dog, and she was just so, it was so beautiful when her soul, it just became so huge. And she was quite, she had these tumors, and she was she could hardly walk at the last few days. I mean, she was like really full on until the week when she was dying, and I really embraced the whole process. And we did just listen to her, what she wanted to do and how she wanted to go outside and lie on the earth and those kind of things. And so there is an ugliness in the body, but the beauty of the soul and just that feeling of connection and of all of it's almost like all of the walls between you come down, and you can really like feel that one, like if there, I mean, I know there aren't really that many walls, but you know, between us and our animals, but there's always something. And when that releases and you're just, it's amazing. It's an amazing experience. So I think the more people allow themselves to go there and just see that it's not bad, you know, it's not what you think that it might be. And I mean, I was a bit concerned, obviously, that she was in pain, and I did give her some painkillers. But I really, I don't feel that only intellectually concerned. I didn't feel you know, more of a heart concern. So I think we just have to learn to listen to our hearts a bit more.
Right.
In the process.